Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast. Time to hashtag everything. We talk about all the fun, crazy stories on social media. From Instagram to Facebook, Twitter to Tumblr, or probably even Friendster. Join us each week as we explore the quirky side of social media. It's the Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast.
It's simple, such a sad song. The one that we rely on to get us.
And thank you for tuning into the GSMC Social Media News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Shamaria Jackson, and I give you all of the nice details that you need to know about social media. We'll be covering everything from entertainment to music, celebrity gossip, beefing, and everything in between. So stay right there, and I'll give you the spill on everything pertaining to today's news. Okay, so our first popular topic that is not very popular, it's actually, I believe a lot of people are starting to get tired of being in quarantine. Even me as an introvert, I love being in my room and I love staying home and I love being in solitude by myself for a period of time. It's just that, after a while, I start to get tired. I like being in solitude by myself, okay? I love my roommates. My roommates love me. I love my family, and my family loves me. But it comes to a point of time where I'm like, oh my goodness, are you going to leave? Are you going to leave the room? Are you going to go away? It's none of that. We're in quarantine together. I have to see your face all the time. They cannot leave. So the first thing we're going to talk about are nurses and the coronavirus. Mostly I wanted to talk about this coronavirus because it's already been big, but it's the rebellion of a lot of people that have decided that even if they do have the coronavirus, that they are going to step out without a mask and without taking precautions. And because of that, there has been a lot of people who since have passed away. So we're going to first talk about have even started to raise a precaution. For instance, Kentucky, they have started putting ankle monitors on people who have the coronavirus and who are not self-quarantining themselves, meaning they are going outside. For many people, that's kind of a stretch because once again, as someone, but at the same time, if these people are putting other people at risk because they don't want to stay home, it's something that has to be done. However, at the same time, I can kind of see the reason as to why they did that, because once again, not a lot of people have the same privilege as everyone else. Some people do not have a stocked fridge. Some people do not have. Again, we're putting other people at risk. For instance, there was a man named Jason Hargrove. He was a Detroit public bus driver, and he has since passed away after reporting on Facebook that there was a passenger who was recklessly just coughing, and they were not using the proper precautions. They were having a dry cough. He suspected that they had COVID-19 because they had all of the symptoms. But he said person was not using the precautions. They did not have a face mask. They were not coughing in their arms. They were coughing. That this man is in a closed space with a lot of different people, especially in Detroit and especially as a public bus driver, meaning he's driving for a city. Okay, so that's a lot of people going in and out of his bus. So at the same time, you have social distancing from there because, like I said, it's a closed, confined space. Even if it's just for a minute, it's a closed and confined space. So it's very easy for him to catch this virus. And people do have to get to work. people do have to go to and from certain places. Not everyone has a vehicle, especially in a major city, such as New York, such as New Jersey, such as Detroit, so on. And NBC updated on their Twitter page, or they tweeted out, the coronavirus case in the United States now surpasses 265,000 with 6,762 deaths. The highest state cases, New York comes in first at 102,863. New Jersey comes in at 29,895. California comes in at 11,000. Michigan comes in at 10,000. Michigan and Louisiana are actually tied. And then you have Florida at 9,000. And finally, you have Massachusetts at about 8,000. Surprises me that an article came out on Bossip actually tweeted about it, that there was a hospital in Oklahoma about a nurse who spoke to them anonymously about a hospital that was banning the nurses from wearing either a mask, a face mask, or gloves because they did not want patients to feel uncomfortable. But at the same time, they were running the risk of their nurses catching COVID and having to go home, meaning that is less staff, meaning the short staff is going to soon affect the patients. But at the same time, the death rate is going up. So not only are you short staffing, but you're also placing these nurses' lives at risk. And if they're going home to their said loved ones, you're placing their families and their said loved ones at risk. And the not so funny thing is that it's not even Oklahoma. My sister-in-law, who lives in Alabama, she actually told me that this happens, at least at her hospital. This has happened. We had a very long conversation, and she was telling me that she got in trouble because she came in one day with a face mask and gloves, and there was a nurse who she really didn't like. They really don't see eye to eye. And the nurse was telling her that she had to take her face mask and her gloves off because that's procedure. My sister-in-law laughed in her face and said no, she's good. She has a husband at home. She has a dog who has terrible allergies. And as we know, if you do not know, the COVID-19 is transferable, meaning that animals and people can get it. So she was like, no, I'm not doing that. The nurse went and told their supervisor. The supervisor came to my sister-in-law and told her she had to take that off or she would be terminated. So my sister-in-law had no choice. She did have to take the mask off. She did have to take the gloves off. But this is where my question comes into play. If you are a hospital and you are wanting to treat people, why would you want the people that are in the forefront to catch a virus that has no vaccine and that has shut down stores, shut down a country? Let's be honest. It's shut down a country. It has people self-quarantined. It has people who do have the COVID-19 at risk of possibly passing away. Why would you want your staff to endure this instead of taking the precautions to not be in this situation or have their said families in this situation? In my eyes, this shows this hospital's values. This shows that they don't care about anything. It'll make the patient feel uncomfortable. But what about the health of your staff? What about these people? What about these nurses that have no choice but they can't be 6 inches away from each other. They have to be there to take that patient's blood pressure, that person's They have to look in their throat. They have to make sure everything's okay. They have to touch them. So you're meaning to tell me that they can't wear masks? I believe my sister-in-law said they could wear gloves when they're touching the patients, but after that, they have to take the gloves off. It baffles my mind at this never-ending cycle that is occurring, and the fact that these hospitals are allowing for it to happen. That the supervisor would rather fire someone rather than making sure that their safety as well as their family's safety is okay. This is their health. And I want to reiterate again that there's no vaccine. I'm so confused. And so when I was thinking a little bit more, I had to ask, like, was it just the doctor who said this, or were these the higher ups? Meaning, was this someone that is in charge of the doctors and that is in charge of the overall hospital? Because then if it's the overall people that is in charge of the hospital, they're not in the actual hospital, are they? Because from what I'm thinking and what I'm concluding in my head, a lot of these higher ups are at home in the luxury of their homes with their families, self-quarantining, staying if they are going outside, they're staying 6 inches apart from each other, but I highly doubt that they're outside, so I'm pretty sure they're inside of their homes enjoying their families or self-quarantining away from their families. I don't know. But they're safe and they have masks on. So why would you put the risk of your staff it just doesn't make sense to me. And it didn't make sense to me at all. And then 9 times out of 10, after that person catches COVID and they're, at home trying to recover and let's say something does happen, now they have to replace that bus driver or they have to replace that nurse. And then they're still denied the right to wear gloves or a mask. And then the cycle keeps repeating. So at what point does someone who is on the higher up say, okay, stop. You can wear gloves. You can wear a mask. You can wear something instead of leaving them out there high to dry and, everything in between. This is crazy. I don't think people are quite understanding that this COVID-19 has no vaccine. So people are out here dying. It's just so crazy. And speaking of being unable to, pay for some of their bills or even their utilities because of this shutdown, in this next break or after this break, I want to talk to you guys about this Brooklyn landlord who decided to waive rent because he knew that not everyone would be able to pay for rent. I'm going to talk about that coming up right after the break.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast, dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Welcome back. Before the break, I was talking to you guys about how there are people, hospitals in Oklahoma and in Alabama, and these hospitals are denying nurses the rights to wear a face mask because they want the patient to feel comfortable, and disregarding the health and safety of these nurses that are in the forefront, that are having to go in, that are having to draw blood, that are having to take temperatures, that are having to be in that person's presence, meaning they are not 6 inches apart. And they are being denied the right to wear a face mask. And if they were to do it, they could possibly be fired. And I also was talking to you guys about a Brooklyn landlord who has decided to waive the rent for this month because he knew that a lot of people were out of a job because of this COVID-19. A Brooklyn landlord by the name of Mario Salarino, he is a Brooklyn landlord who has 18 apartment buildings. Okay, so it's not like he has one apartment building. This man has 18 apartment buildings. He is allowing his tenants not to pay their April's rent. He said in a note that was posted, he said, quote, "Stay safe, help your neighbors, and wash your hands." He wrote that on the sign of all of his 18 residential buildings. And he told them, quote, to also look out for your neighbor. Make sure your neighbor is okay. Make sure that everyone has food on their table. And this is what I mean about caring. What are your values? Okay, it's okay to look out for yourself, but what about someone else? Not everyone has the privilege of having food on their plate. What about them? What about the people that are working and busting their behind to put food on their plate, to put food on their kids' plate? And they are essentially out of a job right now. So I like the fact that this Brooklyn landlord decided to step up and show his values. And I can guarantee you his values will not go unnoticed. Good deeds like this do not go unnoticed. This brings less stress on someone who is already kind of panicked about not being able to pay their bills. I mean, right now, there is over 6 million people who are filing for unemployment. They're canceling monumental events, and everything is just kind of up in the air. If there's someone like me, which I'm even having a hard time, it's always about having a plan. Okay, so I need to pay this rent, so I can't pay this rent. So let me try to move things around so that I can pay this bill, and let me try to see what kind of money I can scrape up so I can, do this. It's all about structure, but it's hard to have structure and, a plan when you have nothing to go off of. You don't know how long this COVID-19 is going to stick around. You don't know where your job status is. You don't know if you can get everything you can from unemployment because, like I stated just now, over 6 million people have already filed for unemployment. However, this one landlord decided to waive the rent. There are other landlords out there that know the situation that's going on, and they have decided, you know what? No, I don't care. You pay your rent or you're being evicted. You pay your rent. You have 1 to 5 business days to pay your rent, or you're going to be evicted on the 6th day. For my apartment, I believe you have 3 to 4 days to pay your rent. 3 days to pay your rent, and then 4 and 5 are late fees. And then by the 6th day, if you don't pay your rent, you will be evicted. I can see kind of, why a lot of people are saying, waive the rent, especially with everything that's going on, and the situation of everything that's going on. But at the same time, you have to, again, look at the business standpoint. You have to look at, okay, so if this isn't getting paid and this isn't getting paid, how are we expecting to pay for a number of things. But at the same time, you have to look at the values. You have to be compassionate. At what point does compassion and values downplay the fact that this isn't like it's someone down on their luck? This was literally something that the government has issued. They have issued for these people's jobs to, just stop. They've issued for this. So at one point, do people decide to say, okay, for April, we should waive the rent? But for right now, I'm going to go on and switch gears. And I'm going to talk about something that's a little bit drama-filled. I love a good drama story. I love getting tea. So after the break, I'm going to give you time to go and grab your teacups. I'm going to give you enough time to go and grab some popcorn, because we have a lot of drama that is about to unfold, and I am here for it. We have Kim versus Courtney, and then we have Megan Thee Stallion versus Cardi B. Or in my case, Megan Thee Stallion versus Cardi B's fans. I don't know at this point. Stick around, and we have a lot of drama-filled social media news coming right after the break.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about a number of things in regards to the coronavirus. We were talking about how over 6 million people roughly have filed for unemployment. We've talked about a Brooklyn landlord that has decided to waive April's rent. And then we also talked about the difference between having compassion and, understanding that a lot of people are not down on their luck, but that a lot of people are out of a job because of this coronavirus, and how some other landlords have still said, your rent is due from the 1st to the 5th, and if you haven't paid, then by the 6th, you will be evicted. So I wanted to switch up and talk to you a little bit about a lot of drama that has just unfolded on social media. On Wednesday, I kind of went over the whole Keely Williams versus Adrienne Bailon and Naturi Lawton, situation. But it hasn't escalated anymore. It's kind of stayed kind of level, I guess you can say. However, goodness gracious, we have Raven, who has spoken out. We have Megan Thee Stallion versus Cardi B. We have Kim Kardashian versus her sister Kourtney Kardashian. And, we have so much drama going on. I didn't know whether I should, take my popcorn out and just, watch the drama unfold, or if I should just, be concerned, because it's kind of like we're going stir crazy while being quarantined away from civilization. For some people, they have to go out and just be away from people. So you can kind of tell that a lot of people are so bored that they would rather start drama than just read a book or start a new hobby or a new skill or catch up on their sleep. So I am going to just go on and dive into what I am talking about. Megan Thee Stallion, this is who we're going to start off with first. Megan Thee Stallion versus Cardi B. In this case, it's more of Megan Thee Stallion versus a Cardi B fan. So this is what happened. Megan Thee Stallion, I believe she's been trending a lot lately because of the Savage Challenge. And so we have a fan who has decided to go and just look through comments that people have commented on her page. And they came across something that looked a little shady. Like a comment that it wasn't a little shady. It was a very big palm tree. A fan of Megan Thee Stallion, I guess they were shading Cardi B. And it says that Megan Thee Stallion liked that comment. And so the person was just simply saying she's fake because she liked these shady tweets toward Cardi B, so she doesn't like Cardi B. Instead of Megan Thee Stallion ignoring that fan, Megan Thee Stallion spoke up and she said, y'all are always trying to make fake beef or just random beef from thin air. I don't have a problem with Cardi B. Stop this. She's basically saying false news, basically. So then the person came back with screenshots of Megan Thee Stallion liking a bunch of shady tweets toward Cardi B. To which Megan Thee Stallion was like, you know what? I'm not even in control of my page. The person that's in charge of my page is my record label. So then everyone who, the Barty gang, who is Cardi B's fans, they ran toward Megan Thee Stallion's label owner. And they were basically getting on to him and they were like, oh, so you're liking, these negative comments about Cardi B. And the guy was just, he went off. He was like, no, I don't. And I don't have time for this. Megan, he didn't throw Megan's name under the bus, but at the same time, he did throw Megan's name under the bus because he was just kind of like, no, I didn't. That's Megan. You good. And it was just, then it was like a confirmation to everyone, like, oh, so you are liking these negative comments toward Cardi B. In my opinion, do I feel that Megan Thee Stallion does not like Cardi B? No. I feel like Megan Thee Stallion is just a very friendly person, but she's also a very real person. And some people just do not resonate with real. They can say, oh yeah, I'm real. I like being real. But at the same time, they like things to be just cookie cuttered, sugared, covered, just rainbows. I remember when Megan Thee Stallion and Nicki Minaj went on live together when they were making the Hot Girl Summer song. And a lot of people were thinking that Megan Thee Stallion was coming for Cardi B by saying she writes her own music. Because as we all know, Cardi B uses a writer. I personally don't find anything wrong with that. A lot of people do find something to be wrong with that. That's their prerogative. But at the same time, I don't want to say who cares, but I mean, who kind of cares? Because, and the only reason I'm saying this is because Megan Thee Stallion hasn't been doing anything. And people, if you're so bored to where you have to go through each and every comment just to find out if Megan Thee Stallion is liking something that you personally do not like. Okay, number one, you have got to find a new hobby. And number two, what are you doing with your life to try to like stir up this drama out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. Why are you looking for something so negative? So that was the Megan Thee Stallion's little ordeal, I guess you can say. So people are starting to question Megan Thee Stallion's credibility. So is she lying whenever she says that she doesn't have issues with anyone in the industry? Or does she just keep quiet about a lot of things? I mean, let's be honest. Us as humans, there are some people out here who are just mature about a lot of situations. A lot of people don't agree with everything, but they're mature enough not to say anything. If Megan Thee Stallion says she writes her own lyrics and Cardi B doesn't, I don't think that's her, stirring up drama. That's just Megan Thee Stallion simply saying, yeah, I write my own lyrics. And Cardi B doesn't write her own lyrics. She has said it. So I don't see what the big issue is. So if Megan Thee Stallion did like a comment of Cardi B not writing her own music, and she didn't even say, oh, Cardi B doesn't write her own music. Megan Thee Stallion says she writes her own music. If she likes a comment, it's also like her page, so she can kind of do what she wants because it's hers. Again, this is what I was talking about in my last podcast, which is something called freedom of will, meaning you have the will to do what you want because this is your life. So if Megan Thee Stallion wants to like something that a fan, commented and she liked, that is Megan Thee Stallion's prerogative. If she likes Cardi B but doesn't like the fact that Cardi B doesn't write her own lyrics, that's Megan Thee Stallion's prerogative. That's her opinion. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. So this fan or fake fan that came in here wanting to stir up drama, they obviously knew what they wanted. They got their result. They got their 15 minutes of fame. It's kind of over now. And that's that. All right? Yeah. So after the break, we have more drama that is unfolding. Oh my goodness. So much drama. I love it. Stick around. More to come.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now. Don't bother. What's hot on Netflix and everything in between. That's GSMCpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back. Okay, so remember I told you guys that we have so much drama to go through. Oh my goodness. We have just talked about Megan Thee Stallion versus Cardi B, or in this case, Cardi B's fan, because Megan Thee Stallion didn't really do anything except like some comments. And as far as I know, and as far as I've seen, Cardi B hasn't even responded to the situation, possibly because Cardi B doesn't care about the situation. She already knows that a lot of fans like to stir up drama out of nowhere, and I kind of think Cardi B is doing what this next person we're about to be talking about, what they're doing, which is staying with her family. So which person are we talking about who just wants to stay with their family and just wants to stay out of drama? It's our favorite celebrity, Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian, oh my goodness. She has been trending all over Twitter and all over Instagram. There is a new little thing that is going out on Facebook about big sisters versus little sisters. And I have to tell you, as a big sister, I resonate with this. So, what happened, you asked? Well, on their latest version of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, there was a sneak peek of Kourtney versus Kim. Now, I haven't watched Keeping Up with the Kardashians in a very long time. I think I stopped watching when Kylie was a teenager, before her lip injections and before her makeup line. So you can tell it's been a very long time. But I'm also on Twitter and on Instagram, so I see all of the drama that unfolds with the Kardashian/Jenner family. With that being said, I do have my favorite Kardashian, and that has always been Kourtney. She's always just seemed so level-headed with me, even when she was going through her situations with Scott. It's always just, Kourtney is just, oh my goodness. Like, I can see me being her friend. So I'm going to say this. As a big sister, I do understand what she's coming from sometimes. I've noticed that she went from being an older sister who, really kicked off the Kardashian name. We tend to forget that Kourtney has a degree, and we tend to forget that Kourtney also started up the first business, which is now called Dash. We tend to forget that because we're so busy looking at the in front of the lens instead of behind the scenes, because we're so used to seeing Kim in the front lines that we forget that Kourtney is in the back managing everything. It's not only, the mom, but Kourtney's back here doing her thing too. So anyway, this is what happened. Kim was being shady, and they were talking about their mom and how every time their mom gets sick, Kim and Khloe are the main two that will drop everything to make sure that their mom is okay. And during this, she said, I quote, me and Khloe, we make sure that mom is okay, and Kylie doesn't, she tried to talk about Kylie, but mainly Kourtney heard her name and how Kim was being shady, and she was like, me and Khloe. And so by that time, Kourtney got upset because she was like, don't tell me I don't do anything when I do stuff. Like, I'm so tired of you getting onto me. And I can kind of see what Kourtney is talking about. Throughout the years, we've noticed that Kim has started to just drag Kourtney's name through the mud. From her being a stay-at-home mom, to her taking pictures, to her just living her life. But like I said, I've noticed a lot of what Kourtney does is she doesn't let the left hand know what the right hand is going to do. So many people tend to think that Kourtney doesn't do anything when in actuality, Kourtney does a lot. She just does a lot of things behind the scenes. And so for a lot of people, if they don't see it, they automatically think you're not doing anything. So their argument escalated into a physical altercation, which a lot of siblings tend to do. And Kourtney tried to walk away. Kim came back, or Khloe got in between Kourtney and Kim. And Kim kind of pushed Khloe aside and went toward Kourtney, and then the two started to fight. Kim started hitting Kourtney about 5 times, and finally Kourtney had enough, and she hit her one good time, and then after that it was done. Kim said that the fight escalated more because Kourtney scratched Kim to where she could see blood, and that's why the fight escalated. But I can also see, I could see where, Kourtney is just she's just getting tired of the spotlight. I mean, you have to look at it from Courtney's point of view of everything. She went from being, the older sister that had her other sister's best interests at heart. She went from having a business and helping, mainstream the Keeping Up with the Kardashian franchise. She also has a business, which also helps with Keeping Up with the Kardashian franchise. Like, if you've watched from season 1, you already know what Dash is. She went from that to, dealing with Scott and his issues, to her, taking care of her kids, to, even telling Kim, like, I kind of don't like being a celebrity. I don't like being in the spotlight. And I think a lot of people tend to think that Courtney is like lame, or they don't like Courtney because of whatever. But I personally have always liked. And then you slowly start to see the sisters gang up on her and, just shun Courtney. We see that in this episode where instead of Khloe getting on to Courtney and Kim, she only gets on to Courtney because of that hit. So, I mean, that's another question that we also have to ask ourselves too, which is, why is Khloe only getting on to Courtney when she could be getting on to Kim as well? Because Kim went toward Courtney. Kim was the one who started the whole fight. She was being shady toward her. She hit her first. She's been being shady toward her. This has just been a long time coming. And I don't like violence. I don't like things like this to occur, but it does occur. This actually occurs a lot in households. So that's another thing Kim was saying on her interview. She was with Jimmy Fallon. She was saying that they're sisters and they weren't raised in a household like this, that, they weren't brought up like this. But at the same time, I mean, you have to ask yourself, are we sure about that? Because you're so easy to downgrade your own sister, to humiliate your own sister, to talk down on your own sister. And we're not even talking about physical assault. I mean, this is like mental and emotional, by saying, oh, you don't work, you don't know anything about having a business. It's you're downgrading your own sister with all the accomplishments that she has had. Just because she doesn't show off on the internet, just because she's not like big amongst the social media franchise, this lady does work. Courtney does work. And it's just this narrative that is spun about Courtney being lazy. I personally think that Courtney is going through a lot more than we can even think about. She's no longer with Scott. Scott is now with a 19-year-old. I believe she's 20 now. Yeah, she's 20 now, I think. But you have to think about that. You have to think about the fact that, she's her sister. She's not as close with her sisters anymore. She doesn't like being in the spotlight. It's a lot more than a lot of people can think about. But I think an altercation like this was bound to happen. I thought they were going to argue more than I thought that they were going to have a physical altercation. But it came, it occurred, and all they can do right now is just grow from that. And speaking of growing, we're also going to talk about Raven. Also, we're going to talk a little bit, or really quickly, about Keely Williams versus Adrienne Bailon and Raven Simone. It's kind of like a very short subject because it wasn't really drama. It was kind of Raven Simone not really saying her piece, but being a little shady. And we all like a little bit of shade. We all like being a little petty. It's in our nature. Okay? So, Raven Simone and Brie from Growing Up Hip Hop, they went on live and they were basically talking about how Keely Williams always, for some reason, has Raven's name in her mouth. to me, that's not the case. But Raven, to me, that's not the case. But it kind of is the case. Because Keely never really goes on live unless it's to, like, give us some type of tea or stir up some type of drama. So I can see where Raven is talking about. However, in the same breath, there's always just drama. There's not drama always stirring with Raven, because Raven has kind of been a little quiet. But at the same time, Raven did say, and I quote, she does follow all of the girls so that when they go live, she can go and like look, like creep, just to make sure that her name is not being said, which I feel like that's too much energy going into being petty. Like, you can't spend that much time being petty over something that is, like, irrelevant. So what are you doing? You have a show, you have The View, you have years of experience. She has been in this game since she was 3 years old, and I'm talking about Raven. She's been in this game since she was 3 years old. So the fact that you're, like, following everyone just in case they go live so you can be petty, I feel like you're spending too much time. You're spending too much time and energy to waste on someone who you shouldn't be wasting your time on. So basically what happened was Raven-Symoné basically said that Keely Williams always has her name in her mouth. And I was like, okay, so Bree, the one who was from Growing Up Hip Hop, who she was also on live with, she was saying, now who is Keely Williams? Is that the one who was like, she made a song and she said the sex was spectacular. And they were basically just talking about Keely Williams in the most petty, shady kind of way. It was mostly Bree than it was Raven. However, it was one of those situations where it just looked bad on both of them. It looked bad on Raven by association, because it was so petty and so small that this is something that you should have just let go. You shouldn't have even spoke about it. But that is our small little beef, shade, drama, tea session. If you guys have any more drama tea sessions, please let me know by commenting. I love a good drama session. I love a good tea session. You gotta love the pettiness. You gotta love it. And even if it's small, like the Raven-Symoné situation, or even if it's something as big as the Kim Kardashian and Kourtney situation, a petty tea session is a petty tea session. And we must sip to the pettiness. So, yeah. Coming up after the break, is YouTube working on a TikTok-like tool to fend off rising video competition? I'll have that news for you right after the break. Stay tuned.
Always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. Jordan and Keith is Entertainment Tonight meets Access Hollywood.
I'm Jordan. The guy laughing, that's Keith.
Yeah, I'm Keith.
An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
Welcome back. This is our very last topic that we are going to be talking about. I know. Between the drama and the news-filled content today, I feel like it has been like so much that has went on. Mostly drama. Before the break, I was talking to you about how YouTube is working on a TikTok-like tool to fend off the rising video competition. And I have to say, I kind of did see this happening, especially with makeup tutorials, cooking tutorials, fitness tutorials, everything you're thinking about, you name it, TikTok has it. and especially the rising, likeliness of having a TikTok rather than a YouTube, because people are more tuned in with something that is shorter rather than something that's longer. So the information has reported that YouTube is working on a TikTok-like function called Shorts, which would essentially facilitate the same operations as TikTok within the YouTube app. So basically, it's doing a Twitter type of thing where they're not calling stories, they're calling stories fleets. So this is kind of what YouTube is doing. YouTube is creating shorts instead of a TikTok. I can see why they would rather call them shorts instead of TikTok stories. I can definitely understand that. That makes total sense. But I do have to question, because YouTube also has stories, so I have to question what is the difference between shorts and stories. So, shorts will include a feed of brief videos posted by users inside of the Google-owned app, and it will take advantage of the video service's catalog of licensed music, songs, from which will be available to use on soundtracks for the videos created by users. There will be some copyright issues. I can foresee that in the future, so you can play music, but don't get crazy. So for YouTube, they're saying that it will have several advantages in comparison to TikTok. YouTube already has an extensive music licensing arrangement in place, which would broaden the creative operations for more shorts clips. YouTube also has a huge user base with over 2 billion people using the app each month, which is significantly more than TikTok. This also takes advantage of YouTube influencers, but now it's taking an advantage of those TikTok influencers that are coming in that are soon going to use YouTube. I mean, there's no beating around the bush for it. YouTube also has monetization, which helps people earn money. So that's why a lot of people who are from Vine, who became influencers, why they have YouTubes, because they're so big. And a lot of times their videos are monetized, so they are getting paid. Well, the same goes for these TikTok influencers that are now the new people that are coming in to become the next big influencers. These guys have already having a huge fan base and a huge audience. So by the time they're coming to YouTube, their fan base, their audience is huge. So that's going to help YouTube get their audiences, get shorts, get these influencers to be monetized. And it's just an all-around circle from there. However, the next question is, if YouTube is doing shorts, where does that leave TikTok? For right now, because TikTok is so popular, I don't think it's doing anything to TikTok. Just because a lot of people don't know if the YouTube shorts can be as widespread as TikTok, meaning they're going to be able to be put on Twitter or even on Instagram.
The GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
So, I wanted to give you guys some recommendations from me to you on movies. And I wanted to take this time to focus in on one filmmaker who I think it's always like a hit or miss with him. But I've always really liked all of his movies, or the majority of his movies. And I feel like you guys should watch him. So we'll call this segment Filmmaker Spotlight. I like that. I think there should be popping noises and everything. Anyway, so I'm saying all of that to tell you that I feel like I have read as much books as I can. By the way, if you guys have not read The Alchemist, you guys should definitely go and read The Alchemist. It is on sale on Amazon as we speak. I have picked up my copy a very long time ago, but I downloaded it free from my brother. I forgot what he had me download, but I trust my brother, so there was no virus that got on my computer. That's sad. It was a risk I was willing to take, but yeah. But again, so for my filmmaker spotlights, I wanted to take this time to talk about M. Night Shyamalan. He is an American filmmaker and actor. He's also known for making films with a contemporary supernatural plot and twisting and ending. He was born in India and he was raised in Pennsylvania, and he's also an author. He wrote the book I Got Schooled, the unlikely story of how a moonlighting movie maker learned the 5 keys to closing America's education gap. And the movies that I'm a writer for, She's All That, starring Freddie Prinze Jr. and Rachel Lee Cook. He then went on in 1999 to make Stuart Little, which is, if you don't know what Stuart Little is, it is about a small little mouse. These people kind of adopted the small little mouse. It's so cute. Again, he was the screenplay writer for that. And then in 1999, he also made The Sixth Sense, which was the beginning of his little comic book series, I guess you can say, because then in 2000, he made Unbreakable. Then after that, it took him 16 years to come up with the movie Split, which also went into narration with Glass. So you have to watch The Sixth Sense, Split, Glass, and Unbreakable, all 4 movies, to really understand that universe going on. So for right now, I'm going to go back to 2002, where he made Signs. It was a little creepy. It was a little weird, but it was still a classic nonetheless. Then in 2004, he made The Village, which is by far, it's one of my favorites. I definitely recommend watching that. That one starred Dallas Bruce Howard, which also leads me to 2006, where Dallas Bruce Howard also starred in Lady in the Water. Now that is a hit or miss with a lot of people. If you do not know what Lady in the Water is, it is an American fantasy psychological thriller. And this is where M. Night Shyamalan actually wrote, produced, and directed Lady in the Water. He did that with some of his other videos too, but I really wanted to talk about this one because I feel like so many people hate the movie that they don't really sit down and watch it. Or maybe they have sat down and watched it and they're like, this is not my I don't like this. Which I can definitely understand. So I can't knock you for this. In 2010, he made Devil, which this one, goodness gracious, this one scared the bejesus out of me. I'm going to tell you that. This one was more of a supernatural horror movie, and it was also to me, it was a supernatural mystery horror movie. And this one was a story by M. Night Shyamalan. And it followed 5 strangers who were just riding in an elevator together. But as the story goes on, you understand why each person was in the elevator. And then you kind of hear their stories. And it's so weird because, oh my goodness, it's the revelation of their secrets and their transgressions and why they would be considered an evil person and why they should technically live. It's so weird. But I have to say, I really like that movie. Is that bad? I don't know if that's bad or not. In 2000, definitely recommend that you guys go and check out his movies and let us know what you think. So that is all for today's podcast. I want to take this time to thank you for listening to the GSMC Social Media News Podcast, once again brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to also ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review, because that really helps us out. Talk to us about everything that you learned today in today's podcast, because once again, we have went through a lot. We have had our very lows about talking once again about being in quarantine and how the COVID-19 virus has affected us as a society. Many of us are left unemployed. Many of us are facing, being evicted from our homes because of this epidemic. But we also talked about a landlord who had compassion and who understood about the situations that has occurred and that was out of our control. We've also talked about wearing a mask and how a lot of these nurses in Oklahoma and in Alabama have been denied the right to wear a face mask and gloves because they're wanting their patients, to feel comfortable. We also talked about Megan Thee Stallion versus a Cardi B fan. We've talked about Kim and Kourtney Kardashian's fight. We've talked about YouTube versus TikTok. So there's, once again, a lot of drama that is unfolding. However, I'm here to report that to you. The good, the bad, the drama-filled, and everything in between. I am your host, Shamaria Jackson. I would also ask if you could please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'd like to say thank you, and I would like to say have a great night. I also want to take this time to reach out for everyone who is living in the La Quina, California area. I want to take this time to say that I hope you guys are doing so well. I hope everyone in your households and family members and everyone in between, I hope that everyone is safe. For those of you guys who do not know, there was a 4.6 earthquake that has struck the La Quina, California area. And once again, I want to take this time to say, I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone is staying safe and just doing the best you can in this situation. My prayers do go out to you, and that is sincere. Once again, I want you guys to stay safe and have a good night. Bye.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Social Media Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.